At the centre of the dispute, a 1,000 square metre block of prime land nestling under the nose of the community. Many wanted to see the site bought, cleared and added to neighbouring parkland. Ratepayers rallied, while the past Port Stephens Council sat on the fence, hoping to beat the land's owner, the federal government, down on price.
It was a comedy of errors, I guess. I'm not sure bungled is the word, but it certainly is a tribute to the inability of groups to communicate.
The council could have bought the land from the federal government in 1990 on a 12-month interest-free term. But 2 years on, the land has been lost to the people and they're out of pocket $100,000 for court costs. While the council had its wires crossed over price in trying to get the state government to rezone the land, Sydney developers Lublana Proprietary Limited moved in and purchased the site and submitted a development application for building holiday accommodation. Council rejected the application and eventually forced the developers to the Land and Environment Court. The hearing found in favour of the developer, who must still overcome a green ban placed on the site by the Building Trades Group. Urgent talks between the developer and the unions have commenced. Dejected residents who fought to have the area resumed as open space have put their dwindling hopes on the green ban sticking or council buying the land.
It would be very difficult for council to purchase the site now. Obviously the developer has approval and so it has been approved as a commercial site.
It's not quite a mission into space, but handling chemicals in a safe manner can require some space-age equipment. And despite warnings from the experts, some farmers are still taking risks.
So it's quite common to see operators not using proper safety equipment, and of course they don't realise that the chemicals can be absorbed through the skin just as easily as through the mouth or nose.
And so after 2 years of work through TAFE, the National Farmers Federation and the Department of Agriculture, the state launch of the National Farm Chemical Users Program. At the Curry campus of the Hunter Institute of Technology, 15 vineyard workers have already begun their course, studying pest management, personal and environmental safety. The plan is to create a uniform voluntary awareness scheme for farmers across the country. Chemical use is being reduced on the land. In the citrus industry in recent years, spray rates have been cut by 60%. But the Department of Agriculture says farming sprays will always be needed.
If you want to produce produce on a broad acre spectrum, I think we're going to have to use some form of chemicals.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
You're going to have a beautiful party.
The new locomotives are a General Motors design similar to this. Although the locos will be constructed at Bathurst, their ongoing maintenance will be carried out at a facility to be built on Kooragang Island, pending approval of a development application by Newcastle Council. A location has yet to be decided, but a spokesman for Clyde Industries said the facility would have to be operating by the end of 1993, when the first of the locos goes into service. A large proportion of the locomotives will be employed in the Hunter Valley, updating the present coal hauling fleet, while the remainder will boost State Rail's freight division. It's predicted that maintenance of the locos will employ up to 126 people in Newcastle. Hundreds of additional jobs will be expected in subcontracting companies. But in the long run, the new fleet will serve to keep the nation's coal and wheat export industries as competitive as possible. Rescue crews had a struggle just reaching the woman where she lay pinned under the rear of her vehicle on the scenic highway at McMaster's Beach near Terrigal. It's believed the woman leapt out of her four-wheel drive shortly after 4 p.m. after seeing a van which had run off the road just ahead of her vehicle. As she was returning from the scene, a taxi apparently slammed into the rear of her car. The unlucky victim was walking behind the Land Cruiser when the taxi hit. Ambulance officers crawled under the vehicle to help the woman. After about half an hour, she was finally eased carefully out of the wreckage to a waiting ambulance. She was taken to Gosford Hospital. Her condition is not yet known. It's not known if anyone else was injured in the incident. Gosford Police Accident Investigation Squad is continuing inquiries.
Jet Set Travel swung into damage control after a break-in and robbery at its Newcastle outlet at Charlestown. The Omega Travel office was cleaned out after a management dispute. Gone were fixtures, furniture and files containing the travel details of clients, some of who have since been contacted by people acting independently of the company.
Anyone who deals with a licensed travel agent is of course protected by the Travel Compensation Fund. So if you deal with someone who's unlicensed, you're not. Your money's at risk.
By piecing its records back together, Omega managed to get off 2 overseas group bookings whose files had been lost. In the meantime, Omega has a problem. They're holding a substantial amount of money paid as deposits on trips, but they don't know who paid it.
Our advice to the clients of Omega Travel is that if you have made a and you haven't been in contact with them in the last 3 to 4 weeks, that you now contact them at their premises in Charleston, establish that they have the record of your booking, that they have the money in their client account, and that the travel arrangements you have made are protected. Don't deal with someone who contacts you over the phone who is not representative of Omega Travel.
The Forest Alliance moved into the Dix Hill area before daylight and blockaded access to logging equipment, including a tractor, truck and tools. Loggers were planning to work there today. It's a regrowth section and not an area of original trees. Police were called while the loggers successfully negotiated to collect some of their belongings. The Forestry Commission says no one has attempted to log the Mummal Gulf or any old-growth forest. It claims the North East Forest Alliance is trying to provoke a confrontation with the industry because they're cold and bored. But the Forest Alliance wants a resolution to the problem quickly.
We are hoping that a resolution can be found to the problem. We are looking for the Forestry Commission to abide by their June 1990 promise of the Greiner government to complete an environmental impact statement and fully assess the values of the Mummal Gulf and other old growth areas.
The District Forester has called on the Forest Alliance to account for its confrontationist actions, which he says are costing the industry and taxpayers a fortune. With no solution in sight, the Alliance will maintain its blockade.
We will be keeping the machines in capture until the Forestry Commission meets with us and to halt all logging in old growth forests that have not been properly assessed.
The building that houses various community services in Taree has been operational for the past 10 years. Council has two options: demolish it and convert the area into a car park, or restore the heritage listing. The tenants have been given notice to leave, but the council's stance remains undecided.
I believe so, yes. I believe it's a storm in a teacup that will be resolved within a matter of weeks.
As one of the tenants, Annette Wilson, says they just don't know where they stand.
The decision was taken in a meeting that was closed to the public, and we certainly had no idea that such a decision would be made.
One of the reasons for demolition, the building has no fire stairs from the top floor. Tenants now want to know why this is an issue after 10 years of operation.
There have been tenants on the top floor of the neighbourhood centre building for at least a decade, and it seems a little unusual that now, all this time later, it's such an amazing issue with such priority.
5, 7 and 3 were the numbers. Night tides from Name Day and Coppermite. The margins 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. The time 1:12.32.
The development of tele cottages is an initiative of the Department of Primary Industries and Energy in association with Telecom. There are several cottages being formed throughout Australia, but Walker is the first to be fully operational. Based on a European model, the centres provide access to information, training and employment through the use of modern technology, which is often unavailable in isolated areas, according to Telecottage Director Chris Webber.
For the broader community, we'll hopefully be able to offer things for everybody in the community, from children right through to the adults. For instance, we're having a typing class which starts next week.
Training will also cover basic computer use to word processing and farm management. The centre will also provide what's termed an audio conferencing service, which will allow the telecottage to be used as a distant learning centre. It officially came into use this afternoon as Sir William Vines opened the wool industry's national audio conference. The $2 million will be spent on a cooperative research centre for the beef cattle industry. The university is ideally placed as a focus for research involving cooperation of other universities, the CSIRO and the beef cattle industry itself at all levels. The announcement was made today by member for Northlands, Ray Chappell.
The centre will be a national focus for research into disease prevention and control, into meat science, into genetics and breeding, and virtually all aspects of the beef cattle industry. It will also, to that extent, be very much an international centre too, because of the degree of expertise that will be applied.
8 to 1, 7 to 1, 25 to 1. The unplaced favourite at 9 to 4, Captain Cook. In Sydney at Rose Hill, race 4 was the Castrol W.J. McKell Cup over 2,400 metres. Nine to 1, 7 to 2 and 13 to 8 in favourite. Adamstown had the better of play for most of the match, with Cameron Hudson playing havoc down the right wing. Again it was Hudson who created a chance for Rosebuds, and after many attempts, no result. But the goal had to come. Ross Wells across the face of goal, and it fell for Hudson. His shot may have got a Canterbury player on the way through, but it didn't matter. Adamstown 1, Canterbury 0.
There was a holiday mood at the markets thanks to the Lismore City Concert Band. The band, made up of students from the Lismore area, is about to tour southeast Queensland. The money raised from today's concert will go towards the trip.
It was the second day of the second round of the City Series, and with every point precious towards a spot in the final, there was no place for the faint-hearted. All of the divisional finals were cutthroat affairs, although in the Senior 100S heavy final, Damien French proved to all and sundry just why he is carrying the country's #1 plate, blowing his rivals off the track to record a convincing win from Eddie White and Ian Cavrosa. The Junior Pro final was a bonus for #7 Simpson. With a 3rd, 7th and an 8th in the heats, he just went for broke and raced away to be an easy winner. The Senior Pro or Formula A was a well-deserved result for Darren Steeden, who had raced consistently all weekend. Steeden recorded 2 second-place finishes before grabbing the checkered flag in the final, winning from Justin Clark and Peter Lahane.
The sulphide works produces 80,000 tonnes of slag each year as a byproduct of its lead and zinc smelting operations. For the past 15 years, the Lake Council has been a regular customer, using the slag as landfill, the reclamation of Spears Point Park and on roadworks. Small traces of lead are locked in the slag, remaining stable in all but stringent laboratory tests. However, a consultant's report to Council recommends that slag be buried before being considered out of harm's way. The Council is checking its parks and roads before sounding the all clear.
I think we will be in a position soon to say that, but until that we have tested all our playing areas on which we've used slag, we can't make that claim.
We've always recommended that it be covered by clean fill or topsoil.
The Council will ask Pasminco to step up its education campaign on safe handling procedures for slag. But for some, education is not enough. While many in the community have organised a committee attempting to come to terms with lead, Australian Democrats leader Elizabeth Kirby blasted a wash, wipe and scrape "You'll be right, mate" campaign devised by the Education Department as being akin to company propaganda.
We really have not been consulted or advised about it, so it's wrong to say that it's company propaganda.
There is a trust being built up between the community and Pasminco and the community. And and the reason why that trust has been built up is because all of the information has been laid bare.
It might just look like a collection of boxes, but this machine can generate enormous energy.
The peak power is about 100 megawatts, which is about the amount of power that a small township would use continuously.
The laser cost $250,000, bought with Australian Research Council and uni funds. The light beam can be used to study the surface layers of metals, important research for finding out why the metals corrode and why they react to certain chemicals. With the help of the laser, Newcastle University will continue to work as a world leader in these studies. At the moment, the machine is in the hands of the professors. It will be a year or so before the students get the chance to work with it. The member for Waratah has run out of patience with the university hierarchy.
I'm absolutely astounded that there is any controversy at all.
For more than 2 decades, he's been campaigning for a railway station at Warrabrook near the uni campus. $2.5 million has been allocated by the federal government, but only last week the University Council put the project on hold because it did not have the $600,000 needed to build roads and pathways to the site. Claims that funding may be reallocated elsewhere because of the delay could not be confirmed by Land Transport Minister Bob Brown. He's on leave. But the Students' Association is frightened their railway station is running off the rails.
Well, there was 27 years of campaigning for this, $2.5 million allocated for it, and to have it taken from under our feet, we're very, very irate.
University Vice-Chancellor Professor Keith Morgan says plans are still being drawn up for the station. He was unaware of any threats to the project. Professor Morgan said he will speak with Land Transport Minister Brown next week.
Narrabri Shire councillors arrived at the Shire offices early this morning for a special meeting. They were considering whether to expand the review of council, and the meeting quickly became heated. Former Shire President Ross Panton claimed there's too much gagging going on in council meetings. Fellow councillors, including Shire President Bevan O'Regan, tried unsuccessfully to remove him from the chambers. Local government authorities investigating council will be in Narrabri for the next 3 days. So far, their investigation will remain fairly broad and include a review of council's management and administrative performance.
The terms of reference, I think, have been made generally fairly widely known. It's essentially into the broad management of the council and any recommendations to go forward from there.
Shire councillors and staff aren't the only people who'll be questioned. The review will also canvass public opinion.
There are a number of people who I've organised to see, representing a few of the local organisations. We will take submissions from the public. I'd prefer that they be brief and in writing, and we can follow up then if there's a need beyond that.
They're a familiar sight on our roads, tow truck crews dragging wrecks out of trouble. But with rising expenses and more competition, the industry is itself in a spin.
There have been a number of complaints, particularly in the last 12-18 months or so, about the industry and the way it operates and about corners being cut.
The Parliamentary Road Safety Committee, Stay Safe, is calling for public submissions in its inquiry into the tow truck business. Already most interest has come from within the industry, with drivers taking hefty rises in licensing fees. Small operators are arguing the increases are unfair.
3 years ago, we paid as low as $100 or $15 for the first licence fees, and up until now it's up to $900 for a single truck.
The inquiry will also target alleged problems with some drivers, issues like disputes between operators on crash scenes, even allegations that some companies are creating accidents by pouring oil onto road surfaces. The inquiry has only heard of problems in the Sydney area, but all genuine tow truck companies have welcomed the move to clean out any irresponsible operators.
I wouldn't see any problem at all about doing an inquiry. I think we'd all be happy if they found anything and bring those people under line.
It happened when Marianne left the kitchen. Her 2-year-old daughter Emily reached up and pulled a bowl of boiling water over her chest.
She had a singlet, t-shirt, jumper on. I lifted it up and the skin had already lifted and it was very red, so I put her under the shower.
Emily was taken to the John Hunter Hospital and treated for 3rd-degree burns. This is the only burns unit for children in the Hunter, and paediatric surgeon Dr. Patricia Davidson is seeing a growing number of cases.
For a variety of reasons that are not clear to us, we had this sudden number of children who had burns, all of them accidental and all of them causing great grief to the families.
Most of the injuries were the result of scalds by hot water. The kitchen and the bathroom are the most dangerous areas in the house. Parents have been advised to supervise young children at all times. It was also recommended that the temperature of hot water in the bathroom be controlled by a device known as a thermostatic mixer. If an accident does occur, the most effective first aid treatment for a burn is to run it under cold water for 5 minutes. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The 1955 floods left a legacy of ongoing mitigation works costing more than $50 million. Deputy Premier Wal Murray accompanied members of the Hunter Catchment Management Trust on an inspection tour of the most recent projects in this continuing scheme, a project that Trust Chairman Harold Sternbeck admits is always preparing for the worst.
The time will probably come when there is a flood in excess of the 55 flood. It was considered to be a 1 in 100 year flood, and records are made to be broken.
Mr Murray was told that much of the mitigation work is now complete, requiring only maintenance and upgrading. The government has commissioned $437,000 for the next stage, an 18-month study to create a working model of the river in an attempt to anticipate what it will do next.
The river is consistently changing. It's changing course, changing direction, and it's affecting levees and everything else. So we need to be able to forecast into the future what is going to happen.
The Minister also commissioned the centrepiece of the flood mitigation program, the powerhouse control structure designed to direct floodwaters around Maitland City. In effect, the barrier represents a speed hump for floodwaters, delaying a potential flood peak by up to 4 hours. If the unthinkable does happen and the levee is overtopped, the effect of the control barrier in slowing floodwaters will more than offset the $850,000 spent on its construction by minimising damage in the Maitland district. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
$1.5 million and 7 months of intense labour has transformed this into this. A brilliant pavilion that will usher in a new era for punters in the coalfields and its visitors. Builders North and Partners, along with architect Kevin Winterbottom, have created a heritage-style building that incorporates all of the creature comforts. A sponsors bar that looks across the track. The jockeys are well catered for with expansive rooms, and also a separate locker room for the growing number of lady hoops, a commission room for the larger punters, full tote window facilities, and a unique feature, inbuilt air conditioning. Just roll up or close the shutters and racegoers can relax in total comfort. The grounds are taking shape with landscaping well underway, and all of a sudden the old Cessnock racetrack is a thing of the past.
These days, with dwindling crowds, no one's stupid enough to say that we'll be able to double our crowds, but we certainly hope that we'll be able to at least maintain them and perhaps pick up a few. That's the whole object of the exercise, and it was certainly overdue at Cessnock. I think Cessnock should be very proud of it. I know we are.
The building will be handed over on July the 16th, 4 days ahead of schedule, with the official opening to take place on December the 14th. Inside the complex, a special area. Cessnock's favourite son, champion jockey Robert Thompson, is to have a bar named after him.
I was bred here and I've been reared here, and a lot of times during my career I could have went away to Sydney and all of that, but I decided to stay here at Cessnock, and I'm proud of that too. So yes, I'm very glad and happy that my name's going to be here in the bar.
The 2HD Dr. Jerd's Jungle Juice Cup is on again this Tuesday, and it will be a fairly wide-open affair.
Robert's father's horse, Trevino, he'll run a very good race also, but of course the field won't be declared till Friday, so we'll wait till we get the barrier drawn and see what's in it. But at this stage, probably pre-record or Trevino, and on the avenue's another horse going very, very well. But they've had 6,000 people here the last 2 years, round about 6,000. We're looking forward to a similar crowd Tuesday. It'll be a great day's racing.
The new agreement affects 30,000 BHP employees nationwide. It replaces the company's Steel Industry Development Agreement just completed after 3 years of operation. So far, the new agreement has been negotiated on a national scale, but within 2 months it will include business plans at a local level.
Well, it means that we'll have an enabling agreement at national level, but the negotiation of an agreement here in Newcastle for Rod and Bar will reflect the things that are important to Rod and Bar's business rather than the Steel Group nationally.
According to Mr Jeans, it's a business plan which will work hand in hand with the company's new incentive bonus scheme.
This time we've believed it's in everybody's interest to continue a national framework but to make it very much a framework and to have our local agreements address our particular needs.
I bet you're a lot warmer than we are.
Yeah. Oh, we've walked from over there.
Where?
Director of Council's Building Services, Chris Power, says Taree, Wingham and the surrounding area has been, and to some extent still is, heritage rich. But the Council has lacked a report which tabulates which buildings are important, enabling them to be protected against development.
Quite a lot of it has been lost in the past, and some of it's not been because of conscious demolition, it's been because of deterioration and the like of the timber structures.
Mr Power says just because a building is deemed to have heritage value doesn't necessarily mean development of the building is prohibited.
What we're trying to do is ensuring that redevelopment in and around them is compatible with that heritage environment and heritage character.
So during the coming weeks, the heritage study will be carried out. Once complete, it'll be incorporated in the Council's new city planning strategy, the Local Environment Plan, which is also under review. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
"23 potential Steffi Grafs and Andre Agassiz have spent the week based at the Manning Taree Tennis Complex, practising their strokes and improving their fitness level. Their days have been spent doing aerobics and competing in round-robin tournaments. 3 youngsters whose ability stands out will be selected late this afternoon to travel to Sydney's Narrabeen Sport and Recreation Camp for more coaching and fine-tuning of skills. But for this week, the group has been happy to spend time in Kerry White's care.
From the beginning, the game didn't go as planned for the local police. This is the 3rd year the match has been staged, and the boys in blue have only come away victorious once.
And we were lucky enough to come here and win it the first year. Unfortunately, we haven't won it since.
The game was the brainchild of 2 Aboriginal liaison officers some 3 years ago, designed to improve community relations between the police force and Aborigines living on Taree's Purfleet mission.
It's been good for relations between us, and you know, the boys out of Purfleet take it fairly seriously. They get in training, and it's a really good day.
While the 11-3 scoreline was bad news for the police, they were taking nothing away from the opposition.
Pretty good players, these young blokes out here. They once they break your line, you've got no hope of catching them.
They haven't really put anything of any substance to us in terms of cost savings, and whether they come up with it at the 11th hour, be interesting to note. But there's no.
But limited airport facilities here have limited opportunities for that potential to be realised. Now the state government and the local council have agreed on a new tourism strategy for the city, revolving around a $1.6 million plan to upgrade the airport to international standard. There are still details to be worked out, not the least. Meanwhile, the domestic air traffic's been busy in Coffs Harbour all day, as Liberal and National Party parliamentarians began arriving